Apple, why can't you put a number row on the keyboard of the 11-inch iPad Pro? I'm just saying, put the number row on top. I'm pretty sure there's enough space. Come on, do it. It was April 3rd, 2010, when Steve Jobs unveiled to the world the next breakthrough product for Apple.
And we call it the iPad.
I remember watching this keynote and saying to myself, this is crazy. I went to my parents and asked, please buy me the iPad. And thankfully they didn't, because the first generation iPad really couldn't do much. But ever since iPadOS 13, their first dedicated operating system for the iPad, it seems like Apple was finally trying to make the iPad more of a computer replacement, especially for power users like myself who want to do much more than just watching movies, playing games, and browsing the web. We're now in the year 2022, and that means, like every year around June, Apple hosts their WWDC or WWDC, which is their Worldwide Developers Conference, where they announce all the latest and greatest when it comes to Apple software. So in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you some of the things that I hope to see as it relates to iPad and iPadOS. Mainly because I use the iPad so much, and there are things that if Apple were to just help, bring to reality, it could really make the iPad experience super awesome. So sit back and relax. Let me share with you some of the ideas that I hope to see in iPadOS 16 when it comes out later this year. So the first thing iPadOS 16 really needs is a more pro UI. Starting with the home screen, I kind of want Apple to bring back the home screen layout that they had in iPadOS 13. Just because I kind of like it when the widgets had its own side panel that is scrollable, and also the apps that were beside it, they actually filled the space. Because currently in iPadOS 15, you are kind of forced to choose between widgets and apps, because if you have a page full of applications, you can fit up to 30 apps on one page. But as soon as you drag a widget into the space, something happens, and the spacing between the different icons and widgets, they just seem kind of off to me. And so you can hold even less apps. And speaking of widgets, they need to be more interactable. Currently, the widgets, they don't really do much without you having to go back into the app. For example, the music app, for some reason, when you're playing music, only shows you the song that's playing, but doesn't give you play or pause controls, which are hilarious. And my to-do app, for some reason, has a widget that shows tasks, and it has check marks that you would think if you press it, it would just check off and disappear. But no, when you press the check mark, it does look like it's gonna check off, but it just goes back into the app and shows you the tasks for some reason, and then you can actually check it off. Doesn't make much sense. There must be a better way to invoke the widget panel that you can easily do on the home screen, right? When you slide from the left to the right. But when you're in an app, there's no easy way to invoke that menu unless you swipe down from the notification tray and then you slide to the right. Slide to the right. And so if there was a way to easily access that side widget panel without having to go through the notification panel, that'd be nice. Maybe we can invoke it with a 2-finger swipe to the right, maybe. We also need the ability to expand the Apple Pencil functionality. For example, we can already take a screenshot when we slide diagonally from the left, and we can open up a new floating note thing when we slide from the bottom right. But what about the top left and the top right? Currently, there isn't any function that you can do. So I was thinking maybe we have more customizability when it comes to those hot corners. And also just give the Apple Pencil, more power over the UI, right? I can't use the Apple Pencil to bring back the dock when I'm in an app. I can't use the Apple Pencil to resize my split view windows, and I can't use the Apple Pencil to bring the notification shade down or the control panel. Like, Apple, what is that? And the last thing Apple needs is something similar to what Samsung is doing with their DeX. Bring us a desktop-like environment. You don't have to bring macOS over, right? At least for pro users, give us an option in the settings to flip a switch and just change this regular home screen layout to one that looks more like a desktop. And bringing that could also mean better external display support. For example, I can plug in the iPad to a monitor and have iPadOS running on my iPad, but my monitor will open up the desktop-like environment. And I don't think it's something that is hard for Apple to do because they already have iPad apps on macOS, right? So just do that, but on the iPad, running them on iPadOS in resizable windows. So next thing iPadOS 16 needs is more pro multitasking. And what this means is we need to be able to open at least 3 apps on the iPad without having to use slide over. Because in its current situation, iPadOS can only hold 2 apps side by side, and any other app after that has to be in slide over, or you start switching and swapping, and that's a lot of confusion. So I suggest, being able to open up 3 apps at the same time, either as 3 long apps, right? When the iPad is held in landscape mode, or 1 app taking up the half of the screen, and the other 2 apps kind of like share the other half. And when the iPad is in portrait mode, to be able to allow us to have the app formatted as one on top of each other, kind of in landscape mode, but you're holding it in portrait mode. It's something I've seen Samsung and other Windows devices actually do, and I feel like that makes more sense than the current situation on the iPad, which is 2 extremely long apps that don't look good and they don't work as nice. Another thing we need is a compatibility layer, right, to allow apps to be forced into certain sizes. Notably, Instagram, for some reason, refuses to make an iPad app, and so its app runs like this. And that is not good. And even though, Apple did fix it by allowing us to run these really bad apps in landscape mode, it still won't allow us to snap it to the side, or at least have it float somewhere, which is something that needs to be done. And the last thing we need in the multitasking department is a way for iPadOS, at least, to be able to manage more than 1 audio source, or have multiple apps access the microphone and speakers at the same time. Because currently on iOS and iPadOS, if I'm playing music and I go to Twitter or something and I open up a video, my music stops. And that makes no sense because that's not even a problem that we're supposed to have on computers. I like to be able to listen to my music, and if something is playing in my browser or something, I do not want it to stop my music. I'm pretty sure there's enough RAM to accommodate the 2. And another use case that really takes advantage of the multiple streams of audio is being able to, for example, video call somebody as well as recording your screen and recording external audio. Because currently, if I'm recording my screen on my iPad and I have the microphone turned on to record, right, because I want high quality audio, and then I go to video chat with somebody, I'll be able to hear them, but they won't be able to hear me because my microphone is being used already by the screen recorder, and so no other app for some reason can be able to use it. That'll be useful for people like me who do want to start taking video podcasts and stuff, and you have to do them remotely. It's not possible right now on the iPad, and it's really bugging me. Last thing I want iPadOS 16 to address is having more pro features and frameworks. What does that mean? I know Apple will probably not port Final Cut or Logic, and I think that's okay because if they do, it would probably be a stripped down version or some subscription madness. And Apple does not want to eat into their Mac sales because, to be honest, the iPad is really, really good and really can replace your MacBook, but it just does not have all of the pro desktop apps. And so instead of thinking about that part of iPadOS 16, Let's think about the ways we can improve what is already there. Starting with the Files app, which really needs to really up their game. There's a lot of things that it does, but there's so much more that it just can't do for some reason, such as a better UI, the ability to format drives, give us the ability to see the size of the folder, like show a progress bar, you know, when it's transferring something or compressing something, because it still doesn't really show you what it's doing. Sometimes it just like gives you a circle that's like rolling and you're like, what is it doing? And if Apple does not want to improve the Files app, at least give other File Explorer applications the ability to detect flash drives, because I feel like that's something that should be given. The one that I love is currently Documents 5. It's just the best thing the Files app should have been. But the only thing that it's missing is it can't detect flash drives. So if you plug in a flash drive or a hard drive, it won't be able to detect it. Only the Files app can do that currently, and it would be nice if other apps had the ability to do that. And the last thing in terms of pro features and frameworks is we need a new standard for video effects. If you make music or do anything with audio on the iPad, you know that there are stuff like AUV3s, which is basically Apple's plugin format for like audio stuff. So like have auto-tune, compressors, all of that fall under the AUV3 category. Since they don't want to give us Final Cut Pro, at least allow editing apps like LumaFusion to take advantage of a new video effects standard, which will allow like people to create apps that don't do anything on their own, but they can be opened up in a video editing app like LumaFusion and actually use its effects. You know, similar to like transitions or like generators or like, I don't know, cool effects, or like apps that help you make titles so you don't have to do all of them manually like what we have to do now. And so there you have it. Some of the things on my wish list that I hope iPadOS 16 brings to reality. And if not, there's always next year, right? Did I miss anything? If I did, drop them down in the comments. Until then, peace out, see you next video. Ciao.